Welcome back to Restore America. Massachusetts has its share of noble old homes, but sometimes we don't realize what they've endured in order to survive. Take, for example, the F.W. Wetherbee house in the town of Waltham. It was built in 1892 as a private home. 10 years later, after the original owner moved on, it was subdivided to house 2 families. Finally, it became, of all things, a fraternity house. By the 1990s, the historic Wetherbee house had been used, abused, and was on the verge of collapse. And that's where our restoration story begins.
Waltham, Massachusetts is about 10 miles west of Boston. It's a city of more than 200,000, and yet it maintains a small-town feel with quaint shops and a town green. A couple of miles from the center of town is Crescent Street, where 100-year-old homes are fighting the signs of old age. 3 years ago, the F.W. Wetherbee house was in most desperate need of help. Today, it's one of the most impressive homes on the street, thanks to Rob and Juana McDougall. The McDougalls were looking for a home just outside Boston. One day, Rob told Juana he had found a diamond in the rough.
When he took me here, my first reaction was one of horror. It looked like a Addams Family house. The rafters were split open with birds living inside. The outside of the house had that psoriasis look of peeling paint. So I was, very skeptical.
Somehow, Rob was able to convince his wife. They bought the Wetherbee house in 1997, and restoration began soon thereafter.
The exterior of the house was in a poor condition. The western side of the house particularly, which is exposed to the weather, had a lot of missing shingles. So we had to do a lot of work in pulling that off and restoring that, rebuilding the clapboard, and a lot of carpentry work.
Some of the hardest work was on the house's front porch. The entire porch leaned to the left side, so the McDougalls had to jack it up and replace rocks and mortar. Then came the most meticulous work.
One of the nice features about this house is the Italianate porch, and we're very lucky to have the original structure. There are 9 medallions right at the top, and my husband had to remove each one. And I don't know if I could ever do this again, but it required stripping, bonding the split wood. It also required a lot of tender loving care in the paint department. It was almost similar to painting my nails.
When the Wetherbee house looked like a painted lady again, Rob and Juana began work on the interior.
When we came through the front of the house, the very first day, the most impressive part of it, I felt, was the foyer area. And you'll see lined there up to about 3 foot off the ground, the Lincrusta style of wall covering. There were a few nicks and bites and gashes as you went along the wall, but we were able to fill and cover those and armor oil the remaining amount and buff and shine it clean.
The hallway needed mostly aesthetic restoration, but the room to its left, the living room, well, it needed demolition.
During its boarding house period, each of the rooms were cut up into smaller rooms, especially the living room. So we saw 2 rooms there with an artificial wall that had been put in between the left and right side. So the very first thing we did was pull that wall out, brought it back to its original size, which is a size that goes right along the side of the house.
Previous owners had also removed stained glass windows in the living room and the parlor.
We were lucky enough to get pictures of some original stained glass of another house in the same town, which was done by the same architect. And we had seen a fleur-de-lis, and we wanted that incorporated. And we had a lot of fun because we also learned a lot about the design in those days. And we're enjoying it every day now.
The McDougalls restored each one of the Wetherbee house's 13 rooms back to its original design, with one exception. In the kitchen, they decided to put their own mark.
We consider this to be the most important room in the house. We find from experience that most of the time you end up socializing here. So we really felt this is where we should put all our resources.
Well, the kitchen was originally 2 rooms. There was a wall dividing what I would call the galley area, and then the main cooking area. So we decided to take that wall out, and once we had it opened up that much, we realized we needed to reinforce the roofing, so we had to reframe that. We added a skylight in. And then with the design we had intended, with an island in the middle, we then started to recreate the kitchen back.
It took Rob and Juana 2 years to restore the 3,800 square foot house, and they are proud to have brought back the home's beauty. Even Juana, who was skeptical at first, is happy with her new home.
It's so important to restore these houses because they have so much history, beauty, and craftsmanship. We were fortunate enough to find one of the worst houses on the street and now make it into one of the best houses.
We saw this house as an ideal opportunity to bring it back to life, to find a jewel in the rough and try to bring it back to modern living standards. So that's been a labor of love, and we've enjoyed it greatly.